Welcome, welcome. Yeah, you really can't see anyone in the audience. This is great. My name is Dave. You might know me on Twitter or online as Dave vs. Axie. We'll do some quick intros of who we are. So I've been in crypto and NFTs now since about February. Jumped right into Axie Infinity within content on Twitch and YouTube, and I've grown kind of into kind of a mentor within the community to help for scholarships or managers kind of get into the game. I'll throw it to Ben.
Hey everyone, I'm Ben. I'm also known as Cybushasi on Twitter. I am the CTO of Blockade Games and lead developer for Neon District, Plasma Bears, Ledger of Zabo, Cyber Brokers, and a lot of stuff. I'm a massive nerd.
That's tough to follow. Yeah, my name is Jason. I am one of the founders of Convoy Ventures as a gaming fund. Most notably for this conversation, I also have the privilege of being on as a board observer for Axie Infinity. That has obviously been a lot of fun. Any Axie players in the crowd? There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. And then yeah, we've been investing pretty heavily into this space for the last couple of years, and excited to be here.
Absolutely. So we're going to take kind of the approach to look at play-to-earn games. How do we want them to evolve? What have they turned into thus far? Kind of some of the risk concerns. So we'll start initially. I'll kind of throw it to you, Ben. And what do you think some of the biggest challenges are into play-to-earn, especially if you look at Axie with the scholarship model? They have now over 2.5 million active daily users. How do we see that evolve into kind of play-to-earn with either the ownership of the assets versus the users of the assets?
So you want to focus more on the expense, basically.
Yeah, and just how do we feel, I guess, within the play-to-earn space of whether you actually own the assets or you're just a player of the assets, as it's becoming, if you look at gig economies and you can work for Uber or Lyft or DoorDash, and versus doing that you can earn money and just playing games, but you don't actually own the assets, almost like you don't own the taxi or the car.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think the scholarship model is fantastic. I think it's something that's evolved organically over the space just from the pure necessity of, well, the fact is you can play Axie Infinity and you can make a livable wage depending on where you live, and that's absolutely incredible. I don't think anything has been like that before. So this is literally just a change in the dynamics of the way that people can live and work in an economy that otherwise can't sustain them. So when it comes to Axie Infinity, there is an onboarding cost, and it can be prohibitive for a lot of people. Like, it can be 3 months' salary for somebody living in the Philippines. For most of us in the United States, for anybody who is in the United States, that is, a paltry sum, practically. But when it becomes life-changing, you can, there's a model where the people who are the managers of the Axies, who can buy them, who can actually fund people and actually make a difference in these people's lives. I lost my train of thought. I'll turn it over to you. I'm going to be very blunt whenever I lose my train of thought.
Yeah, when it comes to the cost of Axie, right? It's about 1% of the average GDP per capita here in the U.S., which is in about 64,000, I believe, today. So it is high, right? And so that's obviously a lot higher in the developing world, which are actually where I grew up as a kid. So on one hand, I'm thrilled with what we're seeing with play to earn, and it's renegotiating, I think, the global minimum wage. So I'm thrilled that games are doing that. On the other hand, I am really looking forward to personally seeing games that aren't as high of a cost come to market. Just as a gamer myself, I have firmly believed that games are going to change the world, not only for entertainment, but also for work. What is the future of work, which is something I think we're going to talk about in a bit. But I think games are going to be a huge portion of that.
And I was going to say, there are economies where, with Axie Infinity, because there's such a huge onboarding cost, there are other games that you can come on and have no onboarding cost whatsoever. That's one of the reasons why Neon District has actually grown so much, is you sign up, you have an account, you don't need any money to start playing the game, but you can immediately get characters, get gear, start playing, and actually generate an income that way. So there are going to be 2 completely different models that come in, but when you think about the Axie Infinity model, the onboarding cost really helps deal with a major problem in play-to-earn gaming, and that is botting. That's dealing with people coming in trying to automate the entire process of generating revenue. They're taking revenue away from the people who are actually playing, real people. So we have our own issues in Neon District, and Axie has their own issues with the expense. There's going to be this is highly experimental what we're doing right now, but the end goal is the same. It is to give people a means by which they can change their own lives.
Absolutely. And how do you think that we evolve into that? If we look at play-to-earn games and you see the upfront costs on Axie, you see other games come into the space, whether it be Star Atlas, Illuvium, Siberian Surge. You see a lot of them, they sell assets initially, and they might raise $4 or $5 million. It might sound like a lot initially, but that's not really a lot of money if you're looking at a AAA game, which is usually the earliest knock on Axie. Oh, it's not AAA, it's not this, it's not crazy graphics and all this and that. But at the same time, too, you really can't raise off of that. And I challenge, how do we see the kind of play-to-earn revolution move forward? Because if you look at free-to-play, someone like Fortnite, who has a massive investment to the game initially, they've obviously evolved it over time, but they're releasing all these skins in kind of loot boxes and coins that they're profiting 100% off of, versus kind of creating this Web3 creator model where I could go create a gun skin and then sell it myself, and then I might get passive revenue from that too. How do we really see that evolve so that the business, the creator of the game, can actually fund to create that really good play to earn game in the future?
First, do you want me to?
Man, so much there. Let me take a stab at it. Really quick, we talked about the prohibitive of cost, and we've looked towards scholarship models. I think scholarship models have been exactly what we needed to kind of bridge the gap. I have questions about the long-term sustainability of that, and if that's going to actually go directly to the creators themselves. So talking about evolution of play to earn, I could see a world where that contract's gonna be negotiated directly with the game itself and the player, and then you're gonna see AAAs, AA's, every form of games actually scoot their marketing budget to actually be that is marketing. Paying players out to get them started, giving them assets. That's now your UA budget versus marketing on Facebook or whatever other channels you're looking at. So that's going to be part of my answer. I'm forgetting the other things you asked, but that would be where I'd kick that conversation off.
Yeah, as a game creator and somebody who's been in the space for 3.5 years now, the point of your question that I'm latching onto is how do the game creators fund and survive and make money when you're creating an economy essentially for your players. Like your players are playing because A, they want to play a fun game, but then B, also they're trying to make a living. That's what play to earn is all about. Is some people making a living, but then some just playing a game that they love and maybe getting some revenue at the end of the day. There's two completely different dynamics there. But for the game creator, it's important to keep in mind, you can have a free-to-play game, you can have a play-to-earn game, where the vast majority of your players never spend anything, or they don't until they've earned money in the game and cycle it back in. But the majority of the revenue that a game company makes in a free-to-play model is from 2% of your entire user base. They're the ones paying for everybody else. And you have that 1%, 0.5% that are massive whales. They bankroll your entire company when it comes to a free-to-play gaming economy. And the fun thing is, because with blockchain assets, that number is a lot larger. So you can have an extremely small user base and a profitable company just by integrating blockchain assets and knowing exactly how to manage the economy around it.
Absolutely. And I think as you evaluate kind of how you're launching games now too, Axie's been around now for 3+ years. They started with just a text file that told you in your battler what was happening to now what it's evolved to today, and in a future state be into land and kind of a V2 version of battling. I wonder, can you even launch a AAA game? Do you guys have a thought around that? can you launch the next Fortnite within this space? Is it just going to be a AAA game that maybe then still has the crates, but you own them almost like a Steam model with Counter-Strike where you're free rolling loot boxes, but they're just throwing the NFTs on top of it? Versus kind of creating a blockchain true Web3 game. Any thoughts on that?
I love that you gave Counter-Strike a shout out. Anyone else here got 10,000 hours on Counter-Strike? Anyone? Okay. Yeah, that shouldn't have revealed that about myself. But thinking through the future of ownership, I think the question you're asking is, can we have a true AAA game that actually deploys play to earn? I think yes. I think the answer is yes. I think we can see, I don't think it's going to be a existing company that then launches with, being like, hey, we're going to convert and become a play-to-earn game. I think that would be really, really hard to manage that economy, personally. So I think it's going to have to be net new. And I think we're years away from it. So something that I would highlight, for those that do come from traditional gaming, a lot of the timelines that have been pursued by new play-to-earn studios have been often very unrealistic. And so I think that something that's going to happen in this next step is you're going to see people actually, which is going to change, not be as forgiving on the timeline of delivery, right? Where you do these NFT drops or sales, you raise somewhere between $4 to $6 million, which is, by the way, in the top third of what a seed round is. 2/3 of seed rounds are actually below $1 million in the West. And I think that you're going to see people be like, hey, I will buy this NFT, but you need to launch a product by this date. Otherwise, you need to refund me. I think that's going to change. And I think that's going to be something that we should hold our AAAs to.
There will absolutely be AAA blockchain games. There's no question in my mind that's going to happen, and I think it's going to happen sooner than a few years from now.
Love it.
Yeah, the Ubisoft has been in this space since at least 2018. I mean, they've been doing with not even before NFTs. They've just been building blockchain into their games and doing wild things with that. So I absolutely believe that's going to happen. I know that there are teams right now that have massive AAA talent coming in, and they're building blockchain games. But the other part of your question that I really want to hit on is the AAA model for free-to-play games, for pay-to-play games. You cannot just tack a blockchain on it, period. You can't do it. The only way you can do it sustainably is you have skins, and that's it. There's no other model aside to it. But if the assets have any kind of utility in the game, you have to completely redesign your game economy appropriately, because people will find a way to exploit it. When there's money involved, the rules change completely.
So there's actually two things I really want to hit on the things that we just talked about there. One is, as we talk about raising money through NFT sales, what do you see as the benefits or concerns with that launch style? Because there's two things happening right now, right? There's a company coming out and saying, hey, we're making a game only. This is going to be kind of the Genesis NFTs, whether they're 1,000, 10,000, doesn't really matter, but these are your initial launching into the game. There's going to be utility in the long run. There's other things that are just PFPs, or like, hey, we're going to add a game at the end of it, whether it be like a mini game, like I picture like mini clips, not to age myself too much, but that's what I kind of picture when you're talking about some of those games. So, but more specifically on the actual ones trying to launch a true game, like what do you love about that model, and what are some of your concerns?
Favorite thing is that you have your community actually own a portion of the upside in the game, and I love that, right? Like that is what should happen. I think what often happens is it's not actually the community members or players who own it; it's speculators. I don't know if that's really what's best for the game itself, and I think that this is something that game developers are having to figure out, which they've never had to do before, which is you're now opening yourself up to sort of public market volatility at a very, very early stage of the company, which is sort of unfair for founders to have to deal with. And so I think if there's a way to gate, and so it's something I've thought that I would love to see is like, hey, if you're going to buy this NFT, you have to have put this many hours into the Discord community. You have to have done these sort of quests, these achievements to earn the right to buy and be part of it, which I guarantee you will scare off most traders and investors. So that's the part I like. The part I don't like is that you're exposing yourself to unfair volatility, and it's a challenge for founders. And I've seen it time and time again, and it's really messed up a lot of great products, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think there's kind of like a cycle of life sort of thing going on here. The speculators and the collectors are a big part of that. They would help drive up the price of AXS and SLP and now the Ronin token. And that's what helps to give everybody else who is playing the game for money to actually drive value from it. Like they're funneling in all of this. So that naturally means you're going to have the market cycle affecting the prices of that. You're going to have the market cycle affecting how much money people are making every month. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see over the next few years, depending on whether or not you think there's a bear market coming or not. We look at the last few cycles, it has been fairly repetitive. If we assume the same thing is going to happen again, what's going to happen in the case of play-to-earn games, like Axie Infinity, like Neon District, in any game where somebody is playing to earn an income and, that income is continually rising with the price of things. What's going to happen after that? That's an extremely important question, and we have not yet seen the answer to that. That's going to be extremely fundamental to where play-to-earn is going to go in the future. And I have a theory, and my original theory was that, of course, the market is going to determine whatever happens. But now I'm realizing the Axie family is super strong. They are not going away.
Woo!
I am a firm believer that the market cycle is going to do what it's going to do, but I think it's going to be tempered greatly by the strength of the people who are playing the game, who are building it, and they're building community.
I can't agree more. Can we talk about Steam? Because I think that was the wildest announcement to ever hear, that Steam is like, yeah, we're just not going to do NFT games. It's just such a weird time, too, to decide that, yeah, we're not going to allow them on our platform and bring them in. And I don't know if they backtrack that. I haven't seen them backtrack that. But that makes me very bullish on things like Mavis Hub or other things to come in and replace that in the future. But Is there any quick takes or thoughts you have on that? Because I couldn't believe that, for Steam, it's been an important part of my life for the greater part of a decade. Like, to have them all of a sudden say that the future of gamer, they don't believe in it, or they don't want to be a part of it, was mind-blowing.
Yeah, I was upset, to be honest with you. I love Valve. I've played just about every game that they've ever actually produced themselves. I think I respect Steam and what they've done for the community, but they missed the boat. This was a clear miss and mistake, and so they took the approach of, it appears to be, they're going to squeeze out as much value as they can until this is a reality, and then eventually pivot. I also loved that Tim Sweeney, by the way, totally changed his tone from Epic. Tweeted about how much NFTs are scams and all these things, which he has some point. There have been NFTs that are scams. But and then all of a sudden he said, we're open for business. So if I was going to put money, back somebody here on one of the two, not financial advice, would be Epic, right? They're positioning themselves as a leader from the traditional games for this, and I think Steam is missing the boat. It just sucks.
I personally do not care that Steam banned blockchain games. We've had. It won't matter. People are going to find blockchain games. It's word of mouth. It's community. How do you think Axie Infinity is one of the most popular mobile games on the planet, and they're not on a Play Store? Like, people are going to find these, no question. The thing that I am upset about is that there are game developers that were depending on launching on Steam, and they got screwed over from this. Age of Rust, The Bazaar. The Bazaar was going to launch a beta on Monday, and now they're completely derailed. So what Steam has done is they've only ruin the people who are already making legitimate games, and they just hurt them, because you know how long it takes to make a game? You can't just drop a scam game. You were talking about PFP projects dropping. They're like, yeah, we're gonna do a game. Sure you are, buddy. So, it's a lot of work. So Steam made an extremely bad call. They made it based on bad information. And frankly, the pressure of the market, they're just gonna get run over, and eventually they're gonna cave, and blockchain games are gonna come back to the platform.
I just want to talk on that too. So I want to talk about kind of the future state of play-to-earn games, whether we're talking now 3, 5, 7 years into the future. One of my goals, and I want to hear from your side, from the dev side, is I want to know, will I be able to take everything from one game that I buy and bring them to all the other games I might have across the metaverse? Because that's really my goal, right? If I have a sweet Axie, I want to go have that be my pet in a World of Warcraft type thing. Or if I have that axe in World of Warcraft, I want to go bring it to another video game I'd be playing there too. That's my dream in the future state of play-to-earn games. Do you think it's a reality? Do you think it's going to be only in key things like Sandbox and Decentraland will let you kind of build on top of? And how do we really see that evolve?
That's absolutely going to be a thing. It's a thing right now, and it's this is a whole different topic, so I'm really excited about this because we love to build NFTs that can be used everywhere. We did a collaboration with Battle Racers, then a game called Light Trail Rush, where you had this thing called the Radiant Blade in the district. It's a sword, it's a weapon that you can use in the game. You bring it over to Light Trail Rush, it's like this hologram on top of your ship. You bring it over to Battle Racers, the underlighting of your car, if you have the Cybertruck car in the game. So one token can be used everywhere. That is the most exciting thing. That is what the metaverse is about. The metaverse isn't Facebook rebranding to Meta and then trying to take over, everything with Oculus. That's not the way this works. The metaverse is everybody building on top of the scaffolding that everybody else is building. It's going to happen. It's happening now, and it's going to blow everything out the water.
There we go. I would say I'm excited about it. I think that we are so far out from that, it's not even funny. I would also say, just to take a little bit more of a bearish approach, we talk about interoperability of assets in all these games. So there's a lot of game assets that I own I would never want to bring into different realms. And what we're talking about is kind of emulating more real world. I can walk into this room and carry things that I came from my hotel room with. But because that makes sense. But am I going to take my M4 into Age of Empires 4, which is an amazing game, by the way? No, I'm not going to. So I guess the push I have here is, I would want to do it. I want the ability to do it, but it's not going to really make sense, and it's going to cause a lot of dev cycles, I think, to enable a world where that happens. And so that's where I push on that reality. I would love your thoughts.
That is an extremely legitimate concern, and I think that's one of the first things that people bring up. Engine, back in 2018 and 2019, their whole promise was you integrate some of our game assets in your game so that way everybody can use it. but you have to do it in basically the same way that the token was represented, right? And that's not intuitive. That's not ingenuity at all. A token can be a token, and it can be represented in any way possible. You can have a wearable in Decentraland that you can use in Sandbox, that you can use in Neon District. And Neon District is a two-dimensional game, right? It's not a 3D wearable game. You have different types of voxel structures, depending on whether you're playing in crypto voxels or Decentraland or Sandbox. The representation of the thing can change, and that is what's the most interesting thing about it, because you can have the same asset. It can basically be the same asset in all these different games, represented entirely differently. The problem that you bring up, though, is the developer hell of having to integrate every single thing. And the original promise of blockchain games back in 2018, we harped on a lot of the fact that every asset was going to be interoperable everywhere, and that's the fact of the matter is it's not. More than 99% of all of your assets are going to work in one thing and one thing only, and that's fine. It doesn't have to work everywhere, but that other 1%, the things that do translate from game to game, because we're working with different collaborations with other companies, or you really love a project and you're like, you know what, I want to have a Bored Ape profile picture in Neon District. Let's integrate it, and I just do that for fun. So we'll just throw it right in the game because we love it. We love the community. We want to give a reward to them. We want them to have more fun in it. That's what that's about. Because, and this is something as a developer I always harp on, and I know I'm talking too much. The NFTs, it's an open ecosystem. What NFTs are, especially on Ethereum, it is an open API that is free for everybody to use. You don't have to ask permission, and it should never, ever be permissioned, ever.
I love that. And so I do want to hear then, what is your future?
What is my future?
What do you think the actual future of, so that was my dream, that was my goal. What do you think it's going to evolve into the next 3 to 5 years? Like, where do you think that we transition to?
I think you'll see alliances between games. I think you'll start to see certain worlds that do offer up compatibility and they prioritize each other. I think that's what's going to start happening. I think you're going to see a group like, Fortnite is going to partner with you, and everything that they build will be able to, interoperatively move things that make sense. I think that will happen, but I just don't see in the next 5 years a world where every asset I buy on any game that matters will be able to move that asset into any other world. Like, I wish that'd be fun. I just don't think it's realistic.
Yeah, when it comes to existing IP, it would be great to have Fortnite in Neon District. I would love that. Even better if Neon District could show up in Fortnite. That would be really cool. But people like Disney is a great example. Disney can build a metaverse, and they can do it extremely well. I mean, the Kingdom Hearts franchise is fantastic. They
so
took
good.
Right? Fantastic game. But they took every single IP they have. The next Kingdom Hearts is probably going to have Star Wars in it. It's going to be freaking awesome. And these are all different IP that everybody knows and everybody loves. They're not going to let other people play in that sandbox, though. They're not going to do it. So that's one of the great things about having all these small, independent game companies coming together and talking to each other and building on each other and playing each other's games, is that you can have disparate regions of people doing things completely isolated from one another and still integrate and still build a community around it. So there's going to be, and I hope I'm wrong, I hope it's more open than this, but you're going to have a whole bunch of independent creators, just small communities aggregately acting as a Disney. That's what the whole metaverse proposal is supposed to be for Ethereum and blockchain gaming space. And then you're going to have all of the existing IP trying to protect their IP. They're not going to let people go and take their assets, and they're not going to let other game companies, especially independent ones, use those assets in their game. There's going to be IP licensing and everything. So I agree with what you're saying, fundamentally.
And I think just something to highlight for you and also everyone who's in the crowd, I think what's so important about what you're building is you're training players to renegotiate what they should expect from their games. And I love that. That is such a great mission. So you guys, hats off to all of you who are building. And I'm excited for that future, honestly. And I hope you all are bigger than Fortnite shortly.
So we have about a minute left. I want to ask one last question. We have about 2.5 million players in Axie that we were going to assume are mostly making their living wage, and it is mostly into kind of third world countries, struggling, et cetera. In a future state, or say in the next 5 years, say 5 years on the road, we meet in the stage again, how many people are making their daily wage through play to earn games?
I'm going to go with 100 million. And I think the main growth is going to be LATAM, Africa. So I grew up in a country called Mozambique. Not a lot of people know it. It's in Africa. I see this actually just changing the entire lifestyle of those people. And they're waiting for something like this.
This is like a bit of a can of worms topic, right? But in the current ecosystem, I think play to earn is going to evolve a lot. So right now, the way people are playing to earn in either Axie or Neon District is an experiment. We have yet to see how that's going to grow, but I do think the number of people who are doing this, because you have to remember, we have to sustain these numbers. Like as the numbers grow, there still has to be that influx of money, people getting excited and buying. There has to be this, circular economy as we grow and expand that. The audience right now, we have several tens of thousands of people like actually playing and earning and making a living doing this, primarily in the Philippines. It will happen all around the world, especially given the state at which, jobs are being automated and then being taken away from people who live in poverty, but still have access to technology. Like it is going to become 100x what it is today, easily within the next 5 years.
So 250 million? That's your bet?
It's like
100x?
100x?
yeah, we can go with that.
I like your reality better than mine.
I'm going the same place too. And all I would say is, as you look at everything else, as you're watching play to earn games, I highly make sure you focus on these developing countries. They're going to become the leaders in cryptocurrency in the future. So that's all in and on there. Thank you guys so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.